Every "I love you" you have ever spoken arrived as a slightly different sentence than the one you sent. You say the words, they cross the air, they enter another person's ear, but by the time they hit the brain, they have mutated. You think you are sharing your soul. You are actually playing a lifelong game of telephone. You have never been completely understood by another human being, not once. Not by your parents, not by your closest friend, not by the person sleeping next to you right now. You think this is a personal failure. You think if you just found the perfect words, the gap would close. If you went to enough therapy, if you read the right books, if you finally met your true soulmate, then you wouldn't feel so incredibly lonely. You are wrong. This gap is not a glitch in your communication skills. It is the inescapable architecture of the human mind. Computer scientists have a term for this tragedy. They call it lossy compression. When you send a massive video file over the internet, it is too big to travel whole. The software strips out the details to make it fit through the pipes. It zips it down. When the receiver unzips it on the other end, the file works, but it is degraded. The colors are slightly washed out. The edges are pixelated. The original data is gone forever. Your brain is doing the exact same thing right now. You possess an entire inner world. It is a massive, uncompressed 4K raw file. Billions of memories, sensory triggers, and micro-emotions flashing every second. Suddenly, you feel a crushing wave of nostalgia. It is tied to the smell of rain on hot asphalt when you were 9. The exact pitch of your father's voice echoing down a hallway. A specific fading shadow on a childhood bedroom wall. You want to share this profound feeling with your partner, but you cannot hand them the raw file. You have to compress it into language. Language is a blunt, primitive technology. You zip an entire universe down into 4 syllables. I feel nostalgic. They hear the words. They unzip the file on their own hardware, but they do not have your memories. They have to fill in the missing pixels with their own past, their childhood, their father's voice. They nod and say, "I know exactly what you mean." They don't. They literally cannot. They are feeling their own nostalgia, merely triggered by your sound waves. You are sitting on the same couch, experiencing 2 entirely different universes. This isn't just dark poetry. This is the hardest problem in neuroscience. Philosophers call it the qualia wall. Qualia is the subjective, conscious experience of a thing, the sharpness of a paper cut, the intense redness of an apple. In 1982, philosopher Frank Jackson proposed a thought experiment to prove you are trapped. Imagine a brilliant scientist named Mary. Mary lives her entire life in a black and white room. She studies everything there is to know about color. She knows the exact nanometer wavelengths of red light. She knows precisely how the optic nerve fires when it processes a rose. She has all the objective data. But one day, the door opens. Mary steps outside and actually sees a red apple. Does she learn something new? Yes. She finally learns what it feels like to see red. You are Mary, trapped inside the black and white room of your own skull. You can describe your pain to someone for hours. You can give them all the data. You can scream, cry, and write a masterpiece. But you can never make them see your red. When you tell your partner you are depressed, they hear the data, but they are blocked by the qualia wall. They can only access their own mental library of sadness to try and guess yours. If their worst sadness was a quiet gray afternoon, and yours is a suffocating, freezing black ocean, your words will never bridge the gap. This is the root of all your midnight heartbreak, the agonizing suspicion that even in your most intimate moments, you are entirely alone. This creates a phenomenon known as semantic drift. Think of a simple argument in a parked car. You tell them you are tired. To you, tired means the bone-deep existential exhaustion of keeping your life from falling apart. They hear the word tired. They think of how they felt after working a double shift last Tuesday. Same exact word, 2 entirely different dictionaries. You feel a surge of resentment. You don't get it, you say. I do get it, they reply. But you are playing chess on 2 entirely different boards. You assume they are being selfish. They are just operating their own hardware. So why don't we all go completely insane? How do we build cities, forge friendships, and get married if we are essentially deaf to each other? Because we are master illusionists. We rely on neural asymmetry. In 2010, researchers at Princeton put people into fMRI machines. They had them tell stories to listeners to see if their brainwaves would finally sync. The media triumphantly reported that they did. They called it brain coupling. But if you look closely at the raw data, the sync is a lie. It is never perfect. It is delayed, distorted, and messy. The listener's brain is constantly projecting, predicting, and rewriting the story to fit their own ego. We survive because this illusion of understanding is usually good enough. It is good enough to hunt a mammoth together, good enough to split a grocery bill, good enough to raise a child. But it is not good enough for your soul. You do not want to be functionally accommodated. You want to be known. You want someone to look into the absolute core of who you are and see the original file, uncompressed, unedited, flawless. You go on dates hoping for this miracle. You pour your heart out in risky late-night texts. You push people away just to see if they will fight through the static to pull you back. All of it is a desperate attempt to force someone over the qualia wall. Understand me. See what I am seeing. Feel the exact weight of my chest. But the wall is bulletproof. You will never win this fight. Stop fighting it. Let the terrible, freezing weight of this truth wash over you right now. You are fundamentally biologically alone. No one has ever received the exact message you sent. Now, flip the coin over. Look at the absolute, terrifying beauty of what this actually means. If no one can ever effortlessly understand you, then every single time they try, it is an act of sheer grace. Think about it. If telepathy were real, intimacy would be entirely cheap. If I could just plug a drive into your neck and download my sadness into your brain, there would be no effort, no sacrifice. Perfect understanding requires zero love. It is just sterile data transfer. But we do not have telepathy. We only have the clumsy, lossy compression of the human mouth. We have pixelated files and broken zip folders. We are just isolated ghosts screaming across a vast, dark canyon, and yet, the person across the canyon stays. Real intimacy is not perfect understanding. Perfect understanding is a childish fantasy sold by romantic comedies. Real intimacy is someone loving the static. It is someone who knows your file is horribly corrupted but downloads it anyway. They sit with you in the dark while you stumble over your fragile words. They watch you fail to explain the depth of your fear. They cannot see your red. They cannot hear your childhood rain, but they lean in closer. They ask another question. Tell me again. Try to explain it one more time. Love is not the static state of being perfectly known. Love is the active choice to keep guessing. It is the lifelong, grueling commitment to translation, to standing at the edge of your qualia wall and refusing to walk away. You will never be entirely understood. The sentence you send will never be the sentence they receive, but when they hold your hand and look you in the eyes, they are saying the only thing that actually matters in this life. I didn't hear exactly what you sent, but I'm keeping the receiver off the hook. Keep talking. I'm right here.